Alright guys, welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. This is Ali Plays. And today we're going to be ranking all 16 of the new champions that were released, I think it's on October 10th. So I tried to get this as soon as I could, but I had to work, so right when I got back home, I had to edit all these pictures, Photoshop them, get them ready. So I'm going to be ranking them in tier. I think that'll be much easier than ranking them in order, because I don't really know much about these champions. So this is just initial impressions on the champions, where I think they will be rated, and they're rated against each other, not against all the other champions. So again, this is not fact, this is opinion, and you guys might have a different list. So I do agree that Plarium should not have released so many champions, because, well, if they want to release champions, they should be reworking other ones at the same time of release. There was a lot of issues with that. That's very controversial, as well as the most of these champions are reskins. Like this champion is like Sakara and Alika. This champion is like the other champion. I don't know. This is Rihanna. I don't know why Rihanna's in the game. I'm just joking. Well, she actually does look like her. This guy looks like what's his name? A cult brawler. Her model is a reskin as well, not her face. And yeah, just to get started. So we're going to start off with the High Elves. So High Elves got a new legendary champion. So his name is Basilius Roanus. Roanus. Okay, I shouldn't say Roanus. Okay, so his basic attack is Bolts of Scorn. He attacks one enemy. He has an 80% chance of stealing a random buff from the target. And he has an 80% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for one turn if the target has no active buffs. So I don't like that this is very situational. It looks like a pretty good ability for arena, as well as the keeps, I guess, when you can steal a random buff. But for me, that doesn't scream out legendary. Let's check out his other abilities. So triple puncture, he attacks one enemy 3 times, ignores shield and block damage buffs, as well as 50% of the target's defense. That is actually pretty good against the, what is it called, Roshkar the Tower, I think that's his name. So that is pretty good against that, because you ignore shield and block damage. Good against Valerie, I guess. Champions that use as shield artifacts. So he's pretty good for arena. It looks like he has an AoE that has a 50% chance of placing a stun debuff for one turn. So it looks like a good faction wars ability right here. Decreases each target's turn by 50% if the stun debuff is not placed. And that also looks good for Spider. So he's actually not as bad as I initially thought. But does that really scream out that he's S tier? So personally, I think that he is A tier for now. Obviously I haven't tested anybody, but from reading their skill set, that's where I think he's at. Sacred Order didn't get any new champions. Barbarians, dude, Barbarians got a crazy good champion from what I've heard. Elder Skarg. So his basic attack, he attacks one enemy, places a 30% increased speed buff on himself for 2 turns if the attack is critical. So it looks like he needs to be built with crit rate, but he can also be built with 70% crit rate, because he places a 30% increased crit rate buff on himself if the attack is not critical. It looks like a huge damage dealing attack. You see the scaling if you book it up. Hunt the Marked, attacks one enemy 3 times. I really like this ability. Places an extra hit for each buff or debuff on the target. Can place up to 3 extra hits, so you can hit 6 times on this ability on a 3-turn cooldown. And he places an HP burn debuff for 2 turns and a True Fear debuff for 1 turn if this attack places all 3 extra hits. So that is a very good ability. It's a 3-turn cooldown. Yeah, that's crazy. Elder's Clarion places a 60% increased defense buff on himself for 3 turns. Places a Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, and places a True Fear debuff for 1 turn on the target under block damage buffs. Plays a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns on targets under shield buffs. These debuffs cannot be resisted. That is actually very good. The ability to place True Fear on targets that are under block damage buffs. That is actually very good for arena. Roshkar the Tower, not Richthof the Tower. Roshkar the Tower. So I guess it's really trying to counter attack that team. And if you max it out, it's a 3-turn cooldown. So he looks like a really good champion. Kingslayer's passive receives 15% less damage from legendary champions, and increase ally crit in the arena by 30%. So he looks like he's very good for arena. Potentially he's good for clan boss because of this ability that can hit 6 times. So if this is built with Giant Slayer, that's going to be potentially proccing a lot of a lot of hits, and you can also place HP burn. The fear and true fear is not going to work on the clan boss, but yeah, he looks like a really good champion. In my opinion, I would place Elder Skarg up here, S tier. Okay, so Barbarians actually got a lot of new champions. So the next champion they have is the one that looks like Alika Maeve. So it's like a reskin of Alika and Sikara. So they just copied that. She has a sleep on her basic attack. Attacks when enemy has a 40% chance, 50% when maxed out, of placing a sleep debuff for 1 turn. And she has a 50% chance of granting extra turn if placing a sleep debuff. That is actually not that bad. And then her abilities all synergize with each other. She attacks one enemy and places a stun debuff on a target for 2 turns if the target is under a sleep debuff. That's on a 4-turn cooldown. That cooldown is way too long though. She has an A3, and it's called End Stay Down. Attacks one enemy. Enemies killed by a skill cannot be revived. So potentially Ice Golem. Personally, I don't think she is very good looking at her skill set. So first impressions. I'm going to put her B tier. I might change it after. We'll see what we got here. So we got Seaway Firstborn, who is exactly like this champion, Aina, just a reskin. So her basic attack, Render Helpless. She attacks one enemy and places a 50% increased attack buff on herself for 2 turns if the attack kills an enemy. And then she can place a 30% increased crit rate buff on herself for 2 turns if the attack kills an enemy. So she has to kill enemies. So I don't really like that so far. She has a 45% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. That is actually not bad, I guess, but it's also not too good. Utter Rampage attacks one enemy, attacks all enemies with a second hit if the attack is critical. This hit deals 60% of the damage inflicted from the first hit. This attack will always be a normal hit, so she is a void type, so obviously it would be a normal hit, so I don't understand why they have that built into her kit. Dead in Reactions attacks one enemy before attacking. She has a 50% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. So the good thing about that is that it's going to be doing a lot of damage because she plays the weaken before she attacks, and that's on a 4-turn cooldown. So for Seaway Firstborn, honestly I feel like she's in the same tier as her. So next up we have Uncommon Champion, Rihanna. Look at that, don't tell me that doesn't look like her. Head Taker. Basic attack, basic. Her A2 attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of decreasing the trigger by 20%. That's a 4-turn cooldown. So yeah, she's not good. So she's going to be rated an F. She can be rated higher if one Rihanna sues Plarium. So that's it for Barbarians. Let's go on to the Ogren Tribes. So Ogren Tribe had another skin that looks like a Cult Brawler. So there's Ogren Jailer, and then there's a Cult Brawler. It's exactly the same, just a reskin. So personally, I really like this guy. I really like him because I feel like he can take the time it takes you to beat Magic Keep and Spirit Keep down by a lot if you build him. His basic attack, Lockdown, attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of removing 1 random buff from the target. And that can be a 60% chance if you max it out. So he's very good. Be very easy to book with rare skill tombs. Confiscate attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of stealing 2 random buffs from the target. And then he places an extra hit if any buff is stolen. And that's a 75% chance when maxed out on a 3-turn cooldown. So I really like this guy's abilities. The only thing about him is he's very situational. So you're going to be needing to use him as Spirit Keep and Magic Keep. And he has an affinity weakness to Spirit. Reprisal attacks one enemy, damage increased by 20% if the target has no active buffs. And he can increase ally accuracy in dungeons by 20. So he's very good early game champion. He can also be used if you have enough accuracy end game for Magic and Spirit Keep. So personally, I like this guy more than these two. But he is a rare champion, so I'm going to place him here. So unfortunately, Lizardmen did not get any love from Plarium. I don't know why. Skinwalkers as well. No love from Plarium. So Orcs. Orcs, we got 2 new legendary champions. So we're going to start with Grohag the Bloodied. Is he really bloodied? I don't know, man. Doesn't look bloody to me. It looks just like armor. So his A1 attacks 2 times at random. I don't like the random hits on A1. Each hit has a 35% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. I don't like that ability. Attacks all enemies, fills champion's turn meter by 20% for each enemy under a decreased speed debuff. So that is not really reliable with his A1 because it's random and it can only hit 2 enemies. So if you have another champion that can apply decreased speed and AoE decreased speed, he's going to be very good. He can fill his turn meter by 20% for each enemy under decreased speed debuff. So by himself, he's not that good, but with another champion, he'd be good. Attacks one enemy and steals the target's max turn meter. I feel like this guy's good for Spider because of his A2 and his A3. He's going to be very good against the Spiderlings and the Spider Queen. Increase ally speed in dungeons by 24%. He can also be used as a lead there. But do I think he's very, very good? I think that guy is better than him. So I'm going to have to put him as an A tier. Next up, we have Tila Gormain. Basic attack, attacks one enemy, steals 1 random buff from the target. I don't know why Plarium is obsessed with that ability today. With his batch of champions. Attacks one enemy, plays the HP burn debuff for 2 turns. Plays a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns if the attack is critical. She's a support champion, right? She doesn't look like it. Continuous heal on all allies. I like continuous heal on all allies, but personally, I think if it was an actual heal, it would be better. She is a support champion. She has an AoE that has an 85% chance of placing a leech debuff and 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. I can actually see this working pretty well, I guess. I don't know, like in arena. But to me, I don't think she's that good. So honestly, I'm gonna have to rate her a B. That's probably controversial, but whatever. Okay, so that's it for the orcs. Let's move on to Demon Spawn. So Demon Spawn, Plarium just randomly gave them an uncommon champion. So we have Vile Spawn. So A1 has a 5% chance of placing a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns, and that's a weak decreased attack. And heals the ally by 10% of their max HP. So is she an F? She's not as bad as Rihanna, but she's not that good. So I'll give her a C. Because I think she is viable early game if you want to use her in clan boss for that decreased attack, even though it's a 25% one. 5% chance. It's going to be a 30% chance of placing decreased attack. Take it down to an F. Alright, let's move on to the Undead Hordes. So it's almost Halloween, so Plarium gave us 2 epic champions for the Undead Hordes faction. 2 epic champions and 1 rare champion. So let's start from the top. We got Defiled Sinner. So his A1 attack has a 50% chance of placing a decreased defense debuff for 2 turns before attacking. So again, they are starting to change the champions, allowing them to place their debuff before attacking, which is pretty good. If 5 or more enemies are alive, does the following attack instead. Attacks all enemies, place a 25% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns before attacking. I don't know if... Yeah, oh, he has an AoE on his basic attack, basically. So he's actually... This is actually pretty good. Attacks one enemy that attacks all enemies, inflicting damage equal to 50% of their max HP. The first hit kills an enemy, the second hit cannot be critical. This guy can potentially be good. But right here it says 15% of their max HP. Where you have Cold Heart that does 30%. I think it's 30%. Attacks all enemies, damage increases by 10% for each enemy alive, stacks up to 100%. So this guy could actually be pretty viable in Spider's Den. With his AoEs and damage based on enemy max HP. 3-turn cooldown here. We got a 5-turn cooldown. And this is basically an AoE attack. So yeah, this guy could be pretty good. Defiled Sinner, to me, could potentially be an H tier champion. Might be wrong about that, but that's my first impression of him. Musaulium Mage. He's a support champion. Attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. And plays the block debuffs buff on allies for 1 turn. Also places the increased crit rate buff and 60% increased defense on all allies for 2 turns. On a 3-turn cooldown max out. Winds of Purging, removes all debuffs from all allies and heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP. He's got 19,485 max HP without any artifacts. Heals each ally by a further 10% if 1 or more debuffs are removed from the ally. Fills each ally's turn meter by 15% if 2 or more debuffs are removed from the ally. There's like a lot of things going on with this ability. I think we have to test it out to know if it's good, but could potentially be a good ability. He has block debuffs, remove debuffs, and heals. So this guy, to me, looks like a very good support champion. But for now, I want to keep him as a B. I might regret that, but I'm going to keep him as a B. Okay, we have Ghoulish Ranger. Attacks when enemy has a 35% chance of placing a decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns. Plays an extra hit if the target is under a decreased accuracy debuff. I don't really like decreased accuracy personally. Attacks one enemy has a 45% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns. And that 45% chance is going to be a 60% chance when maxed out on a 3-turn cooldown. So not bad for... That's actually not a bad leech. Attacks 3 times at random, has a 30% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns. And when maxed out, that's going to be 50% chance of placing HP burn debuff for 2 turns. And that is on a 4-turn cooldown. Do I think he's good? I think he's okay. I don't like his basic attack, so that brings him down a notch for me. I'm going to give him a C, man. Somebody's got to be in a C. So let's move on to the Dark Elves. I don't even know why, honestly, I don't even know why Player even releases champion. Lurker. Attacks one enemy has a 15% chance of placing a 2.5% poison debuff for 2 turns. And that is a 30% chance of placing that debuff. And that's it. That's it for her. So I'm going to place her here. I mean, she could be viable a bit in the beginning when you don't have a poison champion. And she is a common, but you can't ascend her or anything. You know what? We missed one champion in the High Elves. We missed Reliquary Tender. What the heck? Who came up with his name, man? So she's a void support champion. Basic attack has a decreased attack on it. And when maxed out, it says 20%, but if you max it out. So when you max it out, it's going to be a 50% chance of placing 25% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Tender's Watch removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a continuous heal buff on them for 2 turns. Honestly, I think it would be better if she does a Spirit Host kind of thing where she places a block debuffs on them and removes at the same time. Revive ally with 30% HP and fills the trainer by 30%. This is actually potentially good. I would prefer if she actually had an actual heal on it, but she is a rare champion. So for a rare champion, would I throw her up here with these guys in the B tier? Yeah. Honestly, I don't think this batch of champions is that good. I thought it would be better. So let's look at this champion. So we got an epic void champion, Gala long braids. Her braids, oh, from the back are long, not from the front. Okay, brutal bludgeon. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit ignores 30% of the target's defense. I like that. Places a shield buff on herself for 2 turns. The value of shield is equal to 20% of the damage inflicted. Dude, does that work with War Master? I'm wondering. Because she's going to have a huge shield on her. Attacks one enemy, ignores 50% of the target's defense when attacking under a shield buff. And she places a shield on her basic attack. She heals herself by 50% of the damage inflicted. Dude, that's actually a big heal. It places a shield buff on herself equal to any surplus heal for 3 turns. If this had a cooldown on it, man, that would be crazy. Sheer Swagger. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit ignores 25% of the target's defense. Grants an extra turn if the champion has full HP after using the skill. Dude, this champion is actually a beast. 3-turn cooldown. Increase ally attack and all battles by 25%. You know what? I'm doing it, man. I'm putting her in S tier with this guy. This guy is better than her personally, but no, she actually might be better than him too. I was joking. Yeah, but I'm putting her in S tier. She is that good for me on paper. And we got the last dwarf. We got Perforator. What is that, a crossbow? So his basic attack has a 30% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 1 turn. And if you max that out, it's going to be a 50% chance of placing a 5% poison. That is good. I would prefer if it was a double attack so you can place it twice. But that is actually not bad on his A1. Attacks one enemy, ignores 50% of the target's defense. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. This is like all over the place. That's a 3-turn cooldown. So he actually might do a decent amount of damage. Has a 35% chance of placing a fear debuff on the target for 1 turn when this champion inflicts a critical hit. This could potentially be good in faction wars for dwarves when it opens up. So he's actually a viable choice on a 1-turn cooldown that's passive. So if you build this guy with crit, he could potentially be good in faction wars because of fear. If you can stop your enemy from moving, that would be good, because it stops them from using their abilities, right? 50% chance, I think, for fear or true fear. I'm not sure which one's which. But this guy, he's better than that guy, so I want to give him a B. I feel like we should have like another tier. Anyway, so that's the tier list right here. If you guys agree with me or disagree, let me know down in the comment section. Make sure you guys keep it civil. Everybody can agree or disagree with each other. That's fine. Yeah, let me know if you guys think my list is accurate. And if you guys are new to the channel and like to see, then definitely hit that big red subscribe button. If you guys found this video helpful or entertaining in any way, make sure you guys drop a like. And as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.